My whole world felt like it was crumbling to pieces on the very same day I found out my wife had broken my heart. It is hard to describe the feeling, but it was like every single thing I ever believed in or felt safe with was just gone in a blink. I was left standing in a cold, lonely place filled with a deep, heavy sadness. Even though I eventually made the very difficult choice to give our marriage one last chance, and I made sure to put some very firm, clear rules in place, I have been fighting a battle with my own feelings ever since that day. I have spent so many nights feeling completely torn. Part of me wanted to be kind and make those rules a bit easier for her to live with, but the other part of me had to face the very hard, very cold truth. The trust between us might never actually come back home. I recently sat down with a very close friend of mine, someone I trust with my life, and he decided to be completely honest with me. He didn't sugarcoat anything. He told me very bluntly that if I couldn't find a way to build that trust back up from the ground, then getting a divorce might actually be the only healthy way for both of us to find peace and move forward with our lives. To give you a little bit of background, I am currently 30 years old, and my wife is 31 years old. We have been married for 5 years now, and for a long time, I thought we were doing great. But last year, everything changed when she did something that crossed a line she should never have even touched. It all started with an encounter she had with a man from her group of friends during a late night out on the town. Usually, when she went out with her friends, she would be back home around midnight. I was used to that rhythm, but on that specific night, the clock kept ticking and she was nowhere to be found. She did not stumble through our front door until 5 o'clock in the morning. When she finally arrived, she was very drunk. She seemed incredibly quiet, and she hardly said a single word to me for several days after that. The silence in our house was deafening. When I finally couldn't take it anymore, I sat her down and told her she had to look me in the eye and tell me the absolute truth. That is when she finally confessed everything. In that exact moment, everything I had faith in just broke into 1,000 tiny pieces. I have to admit, I had always felt a little bit uneasy about her going out so often, mostly because that specific man was usually there in the group. But until that day, I never had a real, solid reason to doubt her or think she would ever be unfaithful to me. The pain was so sharp and so deep that I didn't even think. I just packed my bag and left the house right then and there. She cried and she begged me to stay, reaching out for me as I walked away. But I needed to get far away just to clear my head and breathe. I ended up staying at a friend's house for a few days, sleeping on a couch and staring at the ceiling, before I finally agreed to sit down and listen to what she had to say. When we met, she was so full of regret and so much sadness. She promised me with everything she had that she would never make that mistake again. She said she would do absolutely anything to save our marriage and keep us together. Because I still loved her, I chose to give her that one last chance. But I knew I couldn't just go back to the way things were. I made some very strict rules to keep myself safe and try to protect my heart. She had to stop talking to the man she had cheated with forever. No texts, no calls, no seeing him. She had to give me the passwords to all of her phones and her computers so there were no secrets. She had to stay away from bars or clubs unless I was right there by her side. She didn't argue. She said yes to every single rule without any fighting at all. As time went on, she even went a step further and stopped talking to her entire group of friends. She did this because they were still hanging out with that man, and she knew it wasn't right to be around him. I never actually asked her to stop being friends with everyone, but she told me it was just too painful and too complicated to stay close to them while she was trying so hard to stay away from him. Even though I had the power to look at her phone whenever I wanted, I found that I never actually did it. I didn't want to be a spy. And even though I went out with her once in a while to keep her company, I realized that the loud nightlife and the crowded clubs were never really something I liked. Still, even with her following the rules, something felt like it was missing. Our relationship slowly started to feel very empty and very quiet, like a house with no furniture. I thought about making the rules less strict to see if that would help, but the pain of her broken promise was always there, lurking in the shadows. When I talked to my friend about these feelings, he didn't hold back. He said if trust cannot come back into the room, then it is simply time to leave. Those words stayed in my mind like a song I couldn't stop humming. I still loved her very much, but the bright happiness we used to share seemed to have vanished into thin air. She told me she was happy, But when I looked at her, I could see her spark was getting weaker every day. It was like something very important inside of her had gone away. As the weeks passed by, I started to truly understand just how much things had changed between us. Before she cheated, our life together felt so alive and full of energy. We used to love doing things together, like hiking through the deep, quiet woods, camping under the big, bright stars, climbing up tall rocks together as a team, traveling to new places we had never seen before. We used to have regular date nights where we just talked for hours, and we had a very strong physical connection that made me feel close to her. The only real problem we ever really had was her love for staying out late at night. I never asked her to leave all her friends behind, just that one man who caused all the trouble. But her friends stayed loyal to him instead of her, which made her feel very alone in the world. She told me recently that her old friends even made fun of her for cutting them off and choosing me. Now, our connection feels very lifeless. We have gone on a few hikes and a few dates, but it is just not the same as it was before the world broke. Being close together in an intimate way has almost vanished now. She tries to start things sometimes, try to bridge the gap, but I just cannot make myself feel that way anymore. In one very long, emotional talk, she told me she was fully committed to me and happy to follow my rules, but she also admitted she felt like she didn't have the right to ask for anything for herself anymore. She took all the blame for the damage she caused. I suggested we try therapy for couples, and she said yes immediately. I didn't go because I felt hopeful that things would fix themselves, but because she had been so good about following the rules for a whole year. But deep down in my gut, I didn't think I could ever see her the same way again. In therapy, I found out that my rules were partly a way to punish her for what she did. I also shared that she had made my biggest fear come true by being with the man I was always worried about. When I finally asked her why she did it, she said she was just curious after hearing a story from a friend. She said she felt terrible as soon as she was sober enough to realize what happened. After many weeks of talking and crying, I finally realized that the trust was gone forever. We both finally accepted this truth. We agreed to get a divorce. We have no children and no shared house to worry about, and we are both doing okay with money. The truth is, our marriage had ended a long time ago on that 5 a.m. morning. Therapy just helped us finally acknowledge it out loud, so we can both move on and find peace.